My name is Abigail, and I'm 36. I was in my kitchen sipping coffee from a chipped mug, the morning light barely cutting through the fog outside. Sadie's wedding invitation sat on the counter, its gold lettering gleaming heavy in my calloused hands, like it was meant for someone else's life. I raised her alone, stitching together dreams from late-night diner shifts, my hands raw from scrubbing plates. Now her voice sliced through the phone, sharp and cold. "You're too poor for my wedding at Rosewood Manor, Mom. You'd embarrass me." My heart sank, a dull ache spreading, but I held a secret one I'd buried deep. I own that estate. Have you ever been pushed away by someone you love, judged for who they think you are? Drop a like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. I sat on my couch, the invitation's gold edges mocking the chipped paint on my apartment walls, the faded wallpaper curling at the seams. Sadie's words looped in my mind, relentless. "You'd stick out like a sore thumb, Mom." I traced my finger over a photo of us at her 8th birthday, her gap-toothed grin pressed against my cheek, her tiny hands sticky with frosting. We'd baked a lopsided cake from a discount mix, laughing as flour dusted our noses, the kitchen warm with our shared joy. How did we drift so far? My chest tightened, the room's silence heavy, the tick of a wall clock slicing through my thoughts. I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling, hoping she'd take it back, laugh it off as a cruel misunderstanding. I dialed her number. It rang twice, each tone a pulse in my throat. "Sadie." I said, my voice softer than I meant, barely above the hum of the fridge. "Can we talk about this?" A pause, then her sigh sharp like a blade across my skin. "Mom." "I meant what I said," she replied, her tone clipped final. "Preston and I want everything perfect. You and your thrift store clothes, it just won't work." My throat burned, words dissolving. "Preston?" I asked, forcing my voice steady though it shook inside. "He thinks this too." She hesitated, her breath crackling through the line, then said, "Yeah, he does. It's not personal, Mom. It's just the vibe we're going for." I hung up my hands, shaking the phone cold against my palm. Not personal. I'd raised her through sleepless nights, stitching her prom dress by hand. My fingers pricked bloody. Cheering at her graduation when no one else, showed my voice hoarse in the empty bleachers. I walked to the window, the cracked sidewalk below blurred by morning mist. The streetlight flickered, casting shadows on the neighbor's rusted mailbox, its dents like scars. I wanted to scream, to drive to her sleek condo and demand she look me in the eye, see the mother who'd carried her. But my feet stayed rooted, heavy with doubt. Maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't belong in her polished world. A knock jolted me, soft but insistent. It was Audrey, my neighbor, holding a steaming mug of chamomile tea, the scent earthy and warm. Her silver hair was tucked into a loose bun, her eyes crinkling with concern, lines etched from years of quiet wisdom. "Saw your light on," she said, stepping inside, her slippers scuffing the worn rug. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Abigail." I forced a smile, but it cracked my lips, trembling. I told her everything, Sadie's call, the wedding, the sting of being told I'd ruin her day, my voice breaking on the words. Audrey set the mug down, its warmth curling into the air, and sat beside me, her hands folded like she was praying. "My son did something like that once," she said, her voice low, weathered by memory. "Told me I was too old-fashioned for his city life, his fancy friends. Hurt like hell. But I showed up anyway, stood in his world until he saw me. Sometimes they need to see you're still there, even when they push you away." I nodded, but my stomach twisted, a knot of fear and hurt. What if Sadie didn't want me there? What if she meant every word? Audrey patted my knee, her touch gentle but firm. "You're her mother," she said. "That's worth more than any manor. Go talk to her." I hugged the photo frame tighter, Sadie's crayon drawing slipping out from behind it, its colors faded but vivid in my mind. She'd drawn us years ago, stick figures in front of a castle, our hands linked, her childish scrawl labeling it, "Mom and me." The towers looked like Rosewood Manors, though she couldn't have known. I'd never told her about the estate, about the years I'd poured into building it, keeping it secret to spare her the weight of my choices, the risks I took alone. Now that secrecy felt like a wall between us, cold and unyielding. I slipped the drawing into my pocket, Audrey's words echoing, steadying me. I had to try. I grabbed my coat, the fabric rough against my skin, and headed for the door, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The air outside was crisp, biting my cheeks, the street quiet except for a distant dog's bark. I walked to my car, the old sedan creaking as I climbed in, its dashboard, cracked from years of sun. Sadie's words played on a loop, each one a needle in my chest, but Audrey's voice cut through, urging me forward. I turned the key, the engine sputtering before it caught a low rumble mirroring my resolve. I wasn't sure what I'd say when I saw her, but I couldn't let this sit. Not like this. The drive to Rosewood Manor felt endless, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, the city's pulse fading behind me. The lights blurred into streaks matching the churn in my gut, a mix of hurt and defiance. I wasn't heading to Sadie's condo anymore. Something deeper pulled me to the estate, my sanctuary. The one place where I wasn't just Abigail, the single mom who scraped by. I parked in the back lot, hidden from the main entrance, the gravel crunching under my tires sharp in the quiet night. I slipped through the staff gate, my sneakers soft on the path, the air cool against my flushed skin. The manor loomed ahead, its stone facade glowing under the moon, each window a soft beacon. I walked the rose-lined path, the petals brushing my fingers, their scent heavy, almost cloying in the cool night air. This place was mine, built from years of late-night deals, whispered phone calls, and quiet sacrifices no one saw. I'd bought it after a real estate gamble paid off a desperate bet when Sadie was young. My savings dwindled to nothing. I kept it secret to shield her from the chaos of my risks, the nights I lay awake fearing failure. Now her rejection made that choice feel like a mistake, a wall I'd built myself. I stopped at the fountain, its soft gurgle a steady hum drowning out the ache in my chest. I traced the edge of a rose bush, its thorns sharp against my fingertips, a faint sting grounding me. I'd planted it when Sadie turned 10, a gift for her future, her laughter ringing as we packed the soil, her cheeks smudged with dirt. Did she even remember that day? Her hands small in mine. My eyes stung, but I blinked hard, refusing to let tears fall, the night air sharp in my lungs. I needed to feel this place to remind myself who I was, before I faced her again, to hold on to the woman who'd built an empire from nothing. Footsteps broke the silence, deliberate but soft. Marcus, the groundskeeper, appeared, his flannel shirt tucked neatly, despite the late hour, his graying beard catching the moonlight. He squinted at me, his eyes kind but searching. "Abigail, what's got you out here at this time?" he asked, his voice warm, edged with worry, like he could see the storm inside me. I tried to shrug it off, my lips tight, but my face betrayed me, the hurt spilling over. He leaned against the fountain, its stone worn smooth, and waited, his silence an invitation. I spilled it all, Sadie's call, her shame, the way she and Preston saw me as a blemish on their perfect day, their words carving into me. My voice shook, but I kept going, the rosebush's thorns anchoring my trembling hands. Marcus listened, his eyes steady, unjudging, like he'd heard 100 stories like mine. He'd known me since the early days when I was just a nervous investor, my dreams bigger than my bank account. "You built this place from nothing," he said, pointing to the manor's glowing windows, their light soft against the night. "After Leonard left, you didn't break. You made something real. Don't let her words make you forget that." His words landed heavy, stirring a flicker of pride, a warmth I hadn't felt in days. But it wasn't enough to dull the hurt, the raw edge of Sadie's rejection. I told him I wanted to tell her the truth, to show her I wasn't the failure she thought, my voice rising desperate. Marcus shook his head, his expression firm but kind. "You don't owe her proof," he said. "But if you're going to tell her, do it for you, not to win her back." I nodded, but doubt gnawed at me, a cold weight in my gut. Would she see it as bragging? Would it push her further away? I pictured her face, the way her smile used to light up when I tucked her in, her eyes bright with trust. We walked toward the manor's side entrance, the one I used when I wanted to stay unseen, the gravel shifting under our steps. Inside the halls were quiet, the chandeliers dimmed, casting long shadows on the polished floors. I paused at a mirror, catching my reflection, faded jacket, tired eyes, hair slipping from its messy bun. I looked like the woman Sadie described, not the one who owned this empire. My fingers brushed the drawing in my pocket, its creased edges grounding me a fragile tether to the past. I could tell her everything, lay it all bare. But what if she laughed? What if she didn't care? Marcus clapped my shoulder, his calloused hands steady, warm through my jacket. "You're stronger than you feel right now," he said, his voice low, certain. "Go home. Sleep on it. She's your kid, but you're Abigail first." I nodded, the words sinking in, but as I stepped back into the night, my resolve wavered, the cold air sharp against my face. Sadie's voice rang in my head, colder now, mixed with Preston's imagined sneer, a chorus of doubt. I climbed into my car, the engine's hum doing little to quiet the storm inside. I wasn't ready to face her yet, but I couldn't stay silent forever. Something had to give. The next morning I woke with a headache. Sadie's words still clawing at me, a relentless echo in my skull. I needed air, so I walked to the corner cafe, the one with mismatched chairs and the best blueberry muffins, their scent lingering in the air. The bell jingled as I stepped inside, the warmth of coffee grounds grounding me a brief respite. I ordered and slid into a booth, the vinyl creaking, hoping to clear my head to find a way forward. Then I heard her laugh, Sadie's bright and sharp cutting through the cafe's hum from a table in the back. My heart lurched, a jolt of pain and longing. I peeked over the menu, spotting her with her bridesmaids Reese. Among them, all dressed in pastel sweaters, their planners' open pages fluttering like wings. Sadie's voice carried oblivious to me, each word a fresh wound. "I'm just saying Mom would ruin the whole vibe," she said, flipping her hair, her tone light but cruel. "Her thrift store dresses in the photos. No way. It's Rosewood Manor, not a flea market." Reese giggled, leaning in, her earrings glinting. "Why not hire someone to play your mom? You know, someone who matches the aesthetic." The others laughed, their voices slicing through me, a chorus of dismissal. I gripped my mug, the ceramic hot against my palms. My breath shallow, the world narrowing to their words. I wanted to stand, to walk over and tell them I heard every word, to make them see me. But my legs wouldn't move, pinned by a shame I hadn't felt in years. My eyes fell to the locket around my neck, the one Sadie gave me when she was 12, engraved with her initials, its silver worn from years against my skin. I'd worn it every day, a piece of her close to my heart. Now it felt like a lie, a relic of a bond that wasn't real. I tucked it under my sweater, my fingers trembling, the metal cold. How could she talk about me like that? Like I was some stranger to be erased. The cafe door opened and my phone buzzed, a harsh vibration against the table. It was Jocelyn, my sister, her name flashing like a warning on the screen. We hadn't spoken in years, not since she blamed me for our parents' debts, her words bitter as the winter wind. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer, my hand unsteady. "Abigail," she said, her voice syrupy, dripping with false warmth. "I heard about Sadie's wedding. She invited me, you know. I'm so honored." My stomach dropped, a cold weight settling. She invited Jocelyn, the aunt who never called, never cared, but not me, her mother. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice low, barely holding steady, the cafe's chatter fading to a hum. Jocelyn laughed, a sound that grated like sandpaper on my nerves. "Oh, I just thought you'd want to know," she said. "Sadie's got class now, doesn't she? Picking me over you. Guess she sees who fits her world." I hung up my vision, blurring the phone heavy in my hand. The cafe spun, Sadie's laughter mixing with Jocelyn's taunt, a vicious duet. I shoved my chair back, the scrape loud enough to draw eyes, and stumbled outside, the air cold against my burning face. The cold air hit my cheeks, but it didn't cool the fire in my chest, a blaze of anger and hurt. I leaned against the brick wall, its roughness biting through my coat, my breath ragged. Sadie's words, Reese's suggestion, Jocelyn's gloating, they swirled, each one a fresh cut deeper than the last. I'd given Sadie everything, my youth, my savings, my heart, and she was ashamed of me. And Jocelyn, she'd always known how to twist the knife. But this was new, crueler, a betrayal that echoed our childhood fights. I pressed my hands to my face, willing myself to stay calm, but the anger was winning, sharp and raw, a tide I couldn't hold back. I walked back to my car, the locket heavy under my sweater, its weight a reminder of what I'd lost. I couldn't go home not with this rage burning, consuming every thought. I needed to understand why Sadie had changed, why she'd let her world pull her so far from me. There had to be more to it. Something I was missing, a piece of the puzzle I hadn't seen. I started the engine, my hands steady now, driven by a need to know, to face the truth head on. Whatever was behind this, I'd find it even if it broke me open. I drove to Rosewood Manor, my thoughts a tangle of Sadie's scorn and Jocelyn's venom, the road blurring before me. The estate's iron gates loomed their intricate curls, catching the midday sun, but I parked in the shadowed lot, needing the quiet of my office. Tucked behind a staff door, it was my refuge. A cramped room stacked with ledgers, a single window overlooking the garden's green expanse. I sank into my chair, the leather creaking under my weight, and stared at a framed photo of Sadie at her high school play, her face painted with stage makeup beaming under the spotlight. My fingers brushed the glass, tracing her smile, but the warmth was gone, replaced by a hollow ache. I opened a drawer, searching for distraction, and found a bundle of old letters, their edges yellowed, tied with a frayed ribbon. Leonard's handwriting stared back, Sadie's father, the man who walked out when she was 2, leaving me to pick up the pieces. I'd kept them hidden, each one a reminder of his promises and lies, his words empty as the house he left behind. My hands shook as I read one dated last month, the paper crisp despite its age. He was back in town writing to Sadie, not me offering to pay for her wedding, his words dripping with charm. My pulse raced, a drumbeat in my ears. Was this why she'd changed? Had he poisoned her against me, filled her head with lies? The door creaked open, and Gail, my accountant, stepped in, her glasses perched on her nose, her arms full of invoices. She paused, reading my face, the letters scattered before me. "Abigail, you okay?" she asked, setting the papers down, her voice soft but probing. I didn't want to talk, but the letters burned in my hands, their weight unbearable. I told her about Leonard, his sudden return. Sadie's rejection, my voice cracking as I spoke. Gail's eyes softened, lines deepening around them. My daughter shut me out once she said, sitting across from me, her hands folded on the desk. Took years to see it was her pain, not mine. Maybe Sadie's got something going on, something she's not saying. Her words stung more than helped, a sharp jab to my already raw heart. I didn't want to hear Sadie was hurting. I wanted her to see me, to know I wasn't the failure she painted. I stood pacing the room, the floorboards groaning under my steps, their creaks echoing my restlessness. I need to talk to her. I said more to myself than Gail, my voice tight with resolve. She nodded but warned, "Just listen first. Don't let anger lead." I barely heard her, my mind already at Sadie's doorstep, the confrontation brewing in my chest. I drove to her apartment, a sleek building with glass doors and a doorman who eyed my faded jeans, his glance a silent judgment. My knock echoed sharp in the sterile hallway, and Sadie opened the door, her hair pulled back, a diamond bracelet glinting on her wrist. It was Leonard's one he'd promised me years ago, its sparkle now on her arm, a betrayal in itself. My stomach twisted, a cold knot forming. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice tight, barely holding back the storm inside. She sighed, stepping aside, her eyes guarded, distant. Inside her place was all white walls and marble counters, a far cry from our old duplex with its creaky stairs and mismatched curtains. I cut to the chase, my words sharp but measured. "Why are you letting Leonard back in?" I asked. "He left us Sadie. He doesn't get to play dad now." Her face hardened, her jaw tight. "You're jealous," she snapped, her voice cutting. "He's helping me, Mom. He's giving me the wedding you never could." I froze, her words a slap, stealing my breath. I wanted to scream about the manor, about every sacrifice, every sleepless night, but my throat closed, words trapped. "You don't know what you're saying," I managed, my voice breaking barely a whisper. Sadie crossed her arms, her bracelet catching the light, mocking me. "I know you're stuck in the past," she said. "Just let me have this." I turned, the bracelet's sparkle burning my eyes, and walked out her door, clicking shut behind me. A final sound. The hallway blurred my chest so tight I could barely breathe. Leonard's shadow, Sadie's betrayal, Jocelyn's taunts, they were suffocating me, a weight I couldn't shake, and I had nowhere left to turn. I couldn't stay away. The rehearsal dinner at Rosewood Manor was tonight, and despite everything I needed to see Sadie to be there, even if she didn't want me. I slipped into the staff entrance, my black slacks and borrowed apron blending with the caterers, the fabric stiff against my skin. The ballroom buzzed, chandeliers casting gold over tables draped in ivory linens, their edges crisp, untouched. Guests in tailored suits and glittering dresses clinked glasses, their laughter sharp against my pounding heart, a rhythm I couldn't silence. I kept my head down, carrying a tray of champagne flutes, their bubbles catching the light, my eyes scanning for her. Sadie stood near the head table, radiant in a cream dress, its silk catching the glow, her arm looped through Preston's. She hadn't seen me yet, her smile bright for the guests. I edged closer, setting drinks on a table, catching snatches of her conversation with a guest, her voice light. "It's going to be perfect," she said, her smile wide, effortless. "Everything we dreamed of." My throat tightened, a lump forming. I dreamed of this moment too, of seeing her happy, my hand in hers, but not like this, not as an outsider, invisible in my own world. I moved to clear a plate, my hands steady, despite the ache in my chest, the porcelain cool against my fingers. Then I felt eyes on me, sharp and sudden. Sadie's gaze locked onto mine, her smile faltering, a flicker of shock in her eyes. She excused herself and strode over her heels, clicking on the polished floor, each step a warning. "Mom, what are you doing here?" she hissed, her voice low but sharp, cutting through the hum. I straightened the tray, heavy in my hands, its weight grounding me. "I just wanted to see you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, trembling despite my effort. Her eyes narrowed and she stepped closer, her perfume sharp, unfamiliar, like a stranger's. "You don't belong here," she said louder now, drawing glances from nearby guests. "Go home. You're embarrassing me." The words hit like a fist, knocking the air from my lungs, my vision narrowing. Guests turned, their murmurs rippling through the room, a wave of judgment. Preston's mother, Sheila, stood nearby, her lips curling into a smirk, her eyes glinting with disdain. My face burned, the tray trembling in my grip, threatening to slip. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out, my voice lost in the roar of my heartbeat. Jocelyn appeared, her silk scarf trailing her presence, a fresh sting. She leaned toward Sheila, her voice loud enough for me to hear. "That's her mother," Jocelyn said, her tone dripping with pity. "Always scraping by, poor thing." Sheila's laugh was a blade cutting deeper than Sadie's words, sharp and deliberate. I stood frozen, the ballroom spinning, every eye on me, their gazes heavy, accusing. My apron felt like a costume, exposing me as the fraud. Sadie believed I was the mother who didn't fit. I stumbled back from Sadie's words, the tray slipping from my hands, my fingers numb. A flute crashed to the floor, glass shattering, a sharp crack silencing the room. My cheeks burned as every head turned their stares, pinning me like a spotlight, relentless. I bent to pick up the shards, my fingers trembling, the glass biting into my skin. But Marcus appeared, his work boots steady beside me, his presence a quiet shield. "Abigail," he whispered, his voice tight, urgent. "Let me." I shook my head, needing to move, to do anything but face the crowd, the weight of their eyes. My gaze caught Sadie's. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak, her silence louder than her words. Marcus crouched, his hand brushing mine as he gathered the glass, his touch warm but fleeting. "She doesn't know," he muttered too loud, his voice raw with frustration. A woman in a sequined dress nearby gasped, leaning toward her companion, her earrings glinting. "Did he say she owns this place?" she whispered, her voice carrying sharp in the quiet. My stomach dropped, a cold wave washing over me. Marcus froze, his eyes wide, realizing his mistake, but it was too late. The murmur spread. Heads turning, eyes widening, a ripple of shock through the crowd. I stood, my apron smeared with wine, feeling naked under their scrutiny, my secret laid bare. Reese broke from the bridesmaids, her heels clicking, her face sharp with disbelief. She reached Sadie, her voice cutting through the hum. "Is it true?" she asked, her tone sharp, almost accusing. "Your mom owns Rosewood." Sadie's face drained of color, her eyes darting to me, then away, her hands twisting the hem of her dress. "No," she stammered. "That's ridiculous." But her voice wavered, thin and uncertain, and the guests leaned closer, their whispers, a growing hum, a tide I couldn't stop. I wanted to scream, to confirm it, to make her see, but my throat was ash, my words trapped. Sadie spun toward me, her eyes blazing, her voice cracking loud enough for the room to hear. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded, her hands shaking. "You let me think you were nothing, and now this. You wanted me to look stupid, didn't you?" Her words were a whip, each one flaying me raw, tearing open wounds I'd tried to bury. I opened my mouth, but no sound came, my voice lost in the chaos of her anger. The crowd's eyes burned, Jocelyn's smirk a distant sting, Sheila's raised brow a quiet judgment, their faces a blur of pity and curiosity. A server approached, holding a folded paper, his face hesitant, his hands unsteady. "Found this in the archives, ma'am," he said, handing me Sadie's childhood drawing, the castle we'd dreamed of together, its lines smudged but vivid. My hands shook as I clutched it, the paper crumpling under my fingers, its weight a lifeline and a burden. Sadie's accusation hung in the air, unanswered, as the room closed in the chandelier's light, too bright, the walls too close. I was drowning, my secret exposed, my daughter's rage, a tidal wave pulling me under. Every piece of me lay shattered, and I had no strength left to pick them up. I slipped out of the ballroom, Sadie's accusation echoing in my ears, a relentless drumbeat, the crumpled drawing clenched in my fist. The manor's back hallway was dim, the hum of the rehearsal dinner fading behind me, replaced by the echo of my own footsteps. I found a small parlor, its velvet curtains drawn, a single lamp casting shadows on the wood-paneled walls, their grain worn from years of quiet moments. I sank onto a cushioned bench, my breath ragged, the weight of the night pressing down heavy as stone. Marcus followed, his silhouette filling the doorway, his presence a quiet anchor in the storm. I smoothed the drawing on my lap, Sadie's childish lines blurring through my tears, the castle's towers a painful echo of our past. "This was us," I whispered, my voice hoarse, barely audible. "Her castle, our dream." I looked up at Marcus, his eyes steady, unyielding. "I can't let her keep doing this," I said, my words raw, desperate. "Not to me, not to herself." He nodded, stepping closer, his boots scuffing the rug. "Then tell her," he said, his voice firm but kind. "Not to prove anything, but because you deserve to be seen." I took a shaky breath, the idea taking root. A spark in the dark. I'd hidden the truth about Rosewood to protect Sadie, to keep her life simple, unburdened by my struggles. But it had built a wall between us, brick by brick. No more. I stood, my legs unsteady, but my resolve hardening, a fire kindling inside. "I need to talk to her," I said, "now, before this night ends." Marcus squeezed my shoulder, his calloused hand grounding me warm through my apron. "I'll be here," he said, his voice a steady promise. "Go." I found Sadie in a quiet corner of the manor, near the glass doors to the terrace, her cream dress glowing under the soft lights, its folds catching the shadows. She was alone, staring at the garden, her arms crossed tight, her shoulders tense. My heart pounded as I approached the drawing tucked into my pocket, its edges a reminder of why I was here, a tether to our past. "Sadie," I said, my voice low but firm, cutting through the night's quiet. She turned, her eyes red, her jaw set, her face a mix of anger and something softer. "What now, Mom?" she asked, her tone sharp but brittle, like glass about to break. I swallowed, my hands steadying at my sides, the air cool against my skin. "I need you to listen," I said, my words slow, deliberate, each one a step forward. "Not to argue, not to judge, just to hear me." Her lips tightened, but she didn't walk away, her eyes locked on mine. I started, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "I own Rosewood Manor," I said, the words heavy, final. "I bought it years ago after your dad left, when we had nothing but bills and broken promises. I worked nights, took risks, built this place from the ground up, every brick, every beam. I kept it secret because I didn't want you to feel my burdens, to carry my weight." Her eyes widened, a flicker of shock, But I kept going, my voice rising steady but raw. "I'm not ashamed of who I am," I said, my hands clenching. "I'm your mother, Sadie, and I've loved you through every sacrifice, every late night, every choice I made for you. But you hurt me saying I don't belong, acting like I'm less than you." I stopped my chest tight, the words burning my throat, waiting for her response. She opened her mouth, her voice sharp cutting. "You hid this from me," she said, her hands trembling. "You let me think you were struggling, and now I'm the fool. You let me humiliate myself." Her anger stung a fresh wound. But I held my ground, something new burning inside me, a strength I hadn't known I had. "I'm not here to fight," I said, my voice steady, unyielding. "I'm here to tell you I'm done hiding. You can't erase me from your life because I don't fit your image." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers, searching for the girl I'd raised. "I deserve better, and so do you." She stared, her breath hitching, and for the first time I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes, a crack in her resolve. I turned, leaving her there, my heart racing with a strength I hadn't felt in years, the night air cool against my flushed skin. I walked away from Sadie, my pulse still racing, the terrace doors clicking shut behind me, a soft sound in the quiet hall. The manor's corridors were quieter now, the rehearsal dinner winding down, the clink of glasses faint in the distance. My mind was loud, replaying the fire in her eyes, the crack in her voice, her words a mix of anger and shame. I'd spoken my truth, and it felt like shedding a skin I'd worn too long, raw, but freeing. But I wasn't done. I needed to make things clear, not just for her, but for me, for the woman I'd fought to become. I headed to my office, the familiar creak of the staff door grounding my steps a steady rhythm. Inside, the air was cool, the desk lamp casting a soft glow over my papers, their edges curling from years of use. I pulled out a notepad, my hands steady, the pen smooth in my grip. "Dear Sadie." I started, the pen scratching softly, each word deliberate. "You can have your wedding here, but only if you acknowledge me as your mother publicly without shame. I won't be hidden anymore, not in my own home. And Leonard, he's not welcome. His promises are empty, and I won't let him hurt us again, not after everything." I paused, my chest tight, but kept going, the words flowing. "This isn't about revenge. It's about respect. For me, for you, for what we've built, for the love that's still here." I folded the letter, tucking in a photo I'd kept in my desk, a snapshot of us at a county fair. Sadie's face sticky with cotton candy, her eyes bright, my arm around her, both of us laughing under a twilight sky streaked with pink. It was a moment before the world got complicated, before secrets and distance grew, a time when we were enough for each other. I sealed the envelope, my fingers lingering on the flap, the paper warm from my touch. This was my line in the sand, drawn with love, but unyielding, a promise to myself. A soft knock interrupted me, tentative but clear. Preston stood in the doorway, his tie loosened, his face a mix of guilt and nerves, his polished shoes catching the lamplight. "Abigail," he said, stepping inside, his voice low. "Can we talk?" I nodded, setting the letter aside, my guard up, my hands still on the desk. He shifted his shoes, scuffing the floor, leaving faint marks. "I didn't know about the manor," he said, his eyes avoiding mine. "Sadie never told me. I'm sorry for how things went tonight." But his eyes darted, and I sensed more, a weight behind his words. "What is it?" I asked, my voice calm but firm, cutting through his hesitation. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, his cufflinks glinting. "My family's business is tied to this wedding," he said, his voice tight. "The prestige, the connections, it's a big deal for us. If it falls apart, we're in trouble financially." I leaned back, studying him, his polished exterior cracking under the strain. He wasn't just apologizing. He was pleading his family's wealth, a shadow behind his words. I felt a pang of pity, but it didn't sway me. "This isn't about your family," I said, my voice steady, unyielding. "It's about mine. Sadie needs to decide what matters more, her image or her mother." Preston nodded, his shoulders slumping, his face weary as he left without another word, the door clicking softly behind him. I sat alone, the letter in my hands, its weight a quiet promise, a tether to my resolve. I wasn't the woman who'd cowered in the ballroom, not anymore. Not the mother who'd let shame silence her. I'd spent years building this place, this life for Sadie, for us every choice a brick in its foundation. I wouldn't let her shame erase that. I stood slipping the envelope into my pocket and walked to the window, the glass cool against my palm. The garden stretched below, the roses silver in the moonlight, their petals swaying gently. I pressed my hand to the glass, my reflection faint but clear, my eyes steady, no longer hiding. For the first time in years, I saw myself not the mother who'd failed, not the woman who hid, but Abigail, whole and unbroken, a woman who'd built something lasting. I turned from the window, the letter a steady pulse against my side, and stepped into the hall ready to deliver it. My steps were slow, deliberate, each one a quiet vow to never shrink again, to stand in my truth, no matter the cost. The wedding day dawned bright, the manor's lawns buzzing with florists and photographers, their voices a lively hum under the morning sun. I stood in my apartment, smoothing the simple navy dress I'd chosen, its clean lines, a quiet defiance, its fabric soft against my skin. The letter I'd sent Sadie last night sat heavy in my mind, its words a bridge I hoped she'd cross, a chance to rebuild. I slipped on low heels, my hands steady, and drove to Rosewood, the envelope's photo tucked in my purse, its edges worn from my touch. The air was thick with jasmine, the sky a clear blue, but my chest felt tight, braced for what came next, my heart a mix of hope and caution. I entered through the main doors, no longer hiding my shoulders, squared the marble floor cool under my steps. Guests milled in the foyer, their voices a soft hum, their dresses and suits a blur of color. But I felt their glances sharp with curiosity after last night's whispers, their eyes lingering on my simple dress. I spotted Audrey near the guest book, her floral ethereal flourish. 400. Floral shawl bright against the muted crowd, her presence a warm anchor. She caught my eye, her smile warm and crossed to me, her steps light. "You're here," she said, squeezing my arm, her grip firm and kind. "That took guts, Abigail." I nodded, my throat tight, grateful for her presence, her quiet strength beside me. The ceremony was set in the grand ballroom, its arched windows framing the garden's lush green, the sunlight streaming through. I took a seat in the back. My hands clasped the photo's edges, pressing into my palm through the purse, a silent reminder of my purpose. The music swelled, a soft violin, and Sadie appeared, her white gown shimmering, its train trailing like a whisper, her face composed but pale, almost fragile. She hadn't responded to my letter, but her eyes found mine as she reached the altar, a fleeting glance that held something I couldn't read, regret maybe, or fear. My heart stuttered, hope and fear tangling a knot in my chest. The officiant began, his voice steady, but my focus shifted to the crowd, their faces a mix of joy and judgment. Sheila Preston's mother sat stiffly, her diamond earrings glinting, her expression sour, her lips pressed tight. Jocelyn was a row ahead, her posture smug, whispering to a guest, her words inaudible, but her tone sharp. I braced myself, expecting her to stir trouble, but the ceremony pressed on, unbroken, the violin's notes soaring. Then came the speeches. Sadie stepped to the microphone, her hands gripping the stand, her voice soft, at first trembling. I held my breath, every muscle taut, the room fading to just her and me. She cleared her throat, her eyes scanning the room, pausing on me, lingering longer this time. "I need to say something," she said, her voice steadier now, carrying across the silent hall. "My mother Abigail is here. She's not just my mom, she owns Rosewood Manor. This place, this day, it's because of her." The room gasped, a collective inhale. Heads swiveling to me, their eyes wide, searching. Sheila's jaw tightened, her earrings catching the light. Jocelyn's smirk vanished, and I felt Audrey's hand on mine, her grip fierce, grounding. My eyes locked on Sadie, tears brimming her words, a weight lifting and pressing all at once, a storm of relief and pain. Sadie's voice broke, but she kept going, her hands shaking on the stand. "I was wrong about her," she said, tears streaking her makeup, leaving faint trails. "I'm sorry, Mom." The crowd was silent, the air thick, every eye on us, their gazes heavy with shock. I wanted to stand to run to her, but my body wouldn't move, frozen by the rawness of her apology, the weight of the truth exposed. Jocelyn shifted her lips, pursed her eyes narrow, and I knew she'd try to twist this later, but for now, Sadie's words held the room, and I was caught suspended in a moment too big to hold my heart pounding in the quiet. The ballroom held its breath as Sadie stepped back from the microphone, her apology hanging like mist, delicate but heavy. I sat rigid, my hands knotted in my lap, the photo in my purse, a silent pulse, its edges sharp through the fabric. Guests shifted their whispers, a low rustle like leaves in a breeze, but I couldn't look away from Sadie. Her eyes red-rimmed, avoided mine. Her shoulders hunched as she returned to Preston's side, her gown trailing softly. The officiant resumed his voice, a distant hum, but the moment had shifted, the air charged with something unspoken, a current I couldn't name. I felt Audrey's gaze warm but distant, giving me space to breathe, to feel. As the ceremony ended, guests spilled into the reception hall, their chatter resuming, but it felt hollow, like an echo of joy I couldn't touch. I lingered in the doorway, watching Sadie move through the crowd. Her smile forced her hands fidgeting with her veil, adjusting it nervously. Sheila approached her, her face tight, words clipped, likely scolding her for the speech, her gestures sharp and commanding. I turned away, needing air, the ballroom suddenly too warm, too full. I slipped out to the parking lot, the gravel cool under my heels, the night air sharp and clean, cutting through the fog in my chest. Leonard was there, leaning against a sleek car, his suit crisp, but his eyes hard, glinting under the street lamp. My stomach clenched, a cold knot forming. He'd ignored my letter showing up anyway, his presence a violation, a ghost from a past I'd buried. "Abigail," he said, his voice smooth, oily, "you've made quite a scene." I stopped, my hands curling into fists, my nails biting into my palms. "You don't get to be here," I said, my voice low, steady, a steel I didn't know I had. "You left us. You don't get to claim her now, not after all these years." He smirked, stepping closer, his cologne sharp, invasive. "She invited me," he said, his tone mocking. "Said I'd make her day special, unlike you." My blood ran cold. But before I could speak, Sadie appeared, her gown trailing, her face pale, almost ghostly in the dim light. She'd overheard her steps faltering on the gravel. Her eyes flicked between us, her lips trembling, her voice small. "Is it true?" she asked Leonard, her hands clutching her skirt. "Did you leave because you didn't want us?" he faltered, his charm cracking, his mouth opening and closing, no words coming. I stepped forward, my voice calm but unyielding, my eyes on Sadie alone. "He walked out when you were 2. I said each word, clear, deliberate. "I worked 3 jobs. Sadie, to keep us afloat, to put food on the table, clothes on your back. He sent letters, sure, but never a dime, never a call." Her eyes widened, tears spilling, leaving faint tracks on her cheeks, her breath hitching. She turned to Leonard, her voice breaking sharp with pain. "Get out," she said. "Now." He hesitated, his smirk fading, then left his car peeling away, kicking up dust that stung my eyes. Sadie faced me, her breath hitching, her eyes searching mine, but she didn't speak, her silence a wall. The weight of her choice settled heavy, final, a moment carved in time. I wanted to reach for her, to bridge the gap, to hold her like I did when she was small, but her eyes dropped and she walked back to the reception, her silhouette fading into the crowd, a shadow slipping away. I stood alone, the night air sharp against my skin, my heart a tangle of relief and ache, a fragile victory. She'd chosen me, but the cost was etched in her silence, and I felt the ground shift beneath me, unsteady, raw, a wound not yet healed. A week after the wedding, I was back in my apartment, the morning light filtering through my blinds, painting stripes on the hardwood floor, their edges soft in the quiet. The place felt different now, warmer, like it held new air, a lightness I hadn't noticed before. I sat at my kitchen table, a mug of black tea steaming beside a plate of toast, the butter melting into golden pools, the fridge's hum a soft backdrop. Sadie had called last night, her voice tentative, almost shy, asking to come over today. I'd said yes, my heart steady, but open ready for whatever she brought, no longer bracing for pain. The doorbell chimed a gentle sound, and I opened it to find Sadie, her hair loose falling in soft waves, a paper bag in her hands. She held it out, a shy smile breaking through her eyes, catching the light. "Coffee," she said. "And those scones, you like the cranberry ones?" I took the bag, the warmth of the cup seeping through the scent of coffee rich and grounding, and gestured to the couch. We sat, the cushions sinking under us, their worn fabric familiar, and for a moment neither of us spoke, the silence soft, not heavy like a shared breath. She set an envelope on the table, her fingers lingering on it, tracing the edge nervously. "I wrote this," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "After the wedding. It's for you." I nodded, not reaching for it yet, letting her words settle their weight, gentle but real. "I'm sorry, Mom," she said, her eyes meeting mine, clear but shadowed, carrying the weight of the past week. "I got lost in wanting everything perfect and I hurt you. I didn't see you, not really." Her voice cracked and she looked down, twisting her hands, her nails bitten short. I leaned forward, my elbows on my knees, the mug warm between my palms. "I didn't make it easy," I said, my voice calm, measured. "I hid so much thinking it'd protect you, keep your world simple. But it built a wall, and I let it stand too long, let it grow too high." She nodded, tears brimming, catching the light, and I felt a shift, like a knot loosening inside me, slow but sure. We talked, then really talked about the years we'd drifted, the small moments we'd missed, the birthdays, and quiet nights we let slip away. She laughed, a soft sound, remembering how we'd dance in the kitchen to old radio songs, her socks slipping on the tile, my hands steadying her. The door creaked open and Marcus stepped in, a grocery bag in his arms, his flannel shirt slightly rumpled, his grin easy. He'd started dropping by more, his presence a comfort like a favorite song. "Got stuff for lunch," he said, setting the bag down, the rustle of paper loud in the quiet. He caught Sadie's eye, grinning wider. "Heard you're a mean cook, kid." She smiled, a real one, her face opening, and stood to help, her movements lighter. As they unpacked, their banter light teasing, I watched, my chest full of warmth spreading. This was new, fragile, but ours a moment we'd earned. I sipped my tea, the steam curling upward, fragrant and fleeting, and felt the weight of the past week settle, not gone, but softer. Sadie's apology. Her choice to face Leonard had cracked something open, a door we'd both stepped through. I wasn't naive. Forgiveness wasn't a switch to flip, not after years of distance, her words at the wedding still echoing faintly like a scar. But sitting here with her laughter mixing with Marcus's, the clatter of dishes in the background, I saw a path forward. We'd walk together, step by careful step, no rush, just presence. I left Sadie and Marcus in the kitchen, their voices a soft hum, plates clinking as they set the table. I slipped out to Rosewood Manor, needing space to breathe, to think. The afternoon sun hung low, casting long shadows over the garden's stone paths, their edges smoothed by years of footsteps. I walked alone, my sandals brushing the grass, the air thick with the scent of blooming lavender, its purple spikes swaying gently. My journal rested in my hand, its leather cover worn from years of late-night thoughts, its weight familiar grounding. I found a bench under an oak, its branches heavy leaves rustling softly, and open to a blank page, the pen cool against my fingers, ready to hold my truth. I wrote not about Sadie's wedding or the pain that led us here, but about me, the woman I'd forgotten in my rush to protect her. I'd kept so much inside, thinking silence was strength, a shield for us both, but it had fed the distance between us, a slow, quiet drift. I'd built Rosewood to give her a future, yet hid it afraid she'd see my struggles, my doubts, the nights I questioned every choice. That fear had cost us years, moments we couldn't redo, laughter we didn't share. I paused, the ink smudging under my thumb, a small imperfection, and realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not at her, not at myself, not at the past. My phone buzzed. Gail's name lighting the screen, her call a welcome interruption. She was talking about a community fundraiser, her voice bright, bubbling with plans, inviting me to speak. "You've got a story, Abigail," she said, her words warm, earnest. "People need to hear it, need to know they're not alone." I smiled, the idea settling like a seed, small but alive. I'd spent so long in the background, my voice quiet. But maybe it mattered not just for Sadie, but for others, for women carrying their own hidden weights. I told her I'd think about it, my mind already turning, imagining the words I'd share. I stood tucking the journal under my arm and walked to a patch of bare soil near the garden's edge, the earth rich and dark. I'd brought a small rose bush from the nursery, its roots wrapped in burlap, its leaves trembling in the breeze. I knelt digging with my hands, the soil cool and soft, clinging to my fingers. "This one's Hope," I whispered, naming it as I pressed the roots down, my hands steady, deliberate. It wasn't for Sadie or the past. It was for me, a marker of the woman I was becoming, unafraid to grow, to take up space. I brushed the dirt from my palms, the sun dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in pinks and golds, a quiet promise of tomorrow. A breeze stirred, carrying the faint sound of the manor's fountains, their rhythms steady, soothing. I felt lighter, not because the scars were gone, but because I'd stopped hiding them, stopped letting them define me. I looked at the rose bush, its leaves trembling, fragile but rooted, and let out a slow breath. The world quiet, my heart steady, ready for whatever came next. Months later, I stood in Rosewood Manor's ballroom, its high ceilings echoing with the soft chatter of a charity event I'd organized, my first step into something bigger. The tables were set with simple linens, candles flickering in glass jars, their flames dancing the air, warm with the scent of fresh bread from the buffet, a homely comfort. I wore a tailored blazer, its fabric smooth, my hair pulled back, feeling more like myself than I had in years, a version unburdened by silence. Sadie was beside me, her smile easy, her hands quick as she helped greet guests, her presence a quiet gift. I moved through the crowd, shaking hands, listening to stories from women who'd come, mothers, daughters, some estranged, some healing their voices, a tapestry of pain and hope. A young woman, barely 20, told me about her fight with her mom, her voice shaky but hopeful, her eyes searching mine for understanding. I nodded, sharing a piece of my own journey, my words steady, no longer guarded, flowing like water. I'd started speaking at events like this, not to boast, but to connect, to let others know they weren't alone, that their struggles had echoes. Audrey caught my eye from across the room, her shawl bright, a burst of color, her nod, a quiet pride, a silent cheer. Marcus was there too, setting up chairs, his laughter mingling with the hum, his hands quick and sure. They'd become my anchor, my chosen family, reminding me I didn't have to carry everything solo, that I could lean. I'd even reached out to Jocelyn, inviting her tonight, a small note sent with no expectation. She hadn't shown, and I wasn't surprised, but I'd offered the olive branch not for her, but for me to let go of old grudges, to clear space for peace. Reese approached, her dress soft blue, her face open, unguarded. "Your story changed things for me," she said, her voice low, earnest. "I talked to my mom last week. Really talked. We're trying, starting small." I smiled, my chest warm, knowing my pain had sparked something good, a ripple beyond my own life. The event flowed on, laughter and clinking glasses filling the space, a chorus of connection. But I slipped away for a moment, needing air. I stepped onto the balcony, the night cool stars sharp above the garden, their light steady, eternal. I leaned on the railing, my hands loose, my breath, even the metal cool under my palms. The manor stretched below, its lights soft, a place I'd built from nothing, now a home for moments like this, for healing. I thought of the years I'd spent hiding, the nights I'd doubted myself, the sting of Sadie's rejection sharp as a winter wind. Those scars were still there, faint but real, etched into my skin, yet they didn't define me anymore. I'd learned to stand in my truth, to let myself be seen, and it had brought me here, to this quiet, steady place, my heart full but calm. I stepped back into the ballroom, the hum of voices wrapping around me like a soft blanket, warm and familiar. Sadie was at the podium now, her hands steady as she spoke to the crowd, her words clear, ringing with gratitude as she thanked them for supporting the cause. She glanced at me, her eyes bright, a spark of the girl I'd raised, and said, "My mom taught me what strength looks like. This night is hers too." The room clapped, their warmth washing over me, a tide of kindness. but I stayed still, letting her moment shine my heart full but quiet content to watch her grow. I joined her after helping clear plates, our movements easy, like we'd done this forever, our elbows brushing in the familiar dance of teamwork. We didn't talk about the past, didn't need to, the weight of it lifted by small gestures. The way she bumped my shoulder laughing when I dropped a napkin, her chuckle soft and genuine, said enough. I'd spent so long fearing I'd lost her. But here we were, not fixed, not perfect, but growing, our roots entwined again. I'd learned that love doesn't demand perfection. It asks for presence, for showing up even when it's messy, even when it hurts. Later, I stood before the guests, my voice steady, clear as I shared my story. Not the manor's grandeur, but the small choices that built it, the quiet victories no one saw. The nights I studied contracts by lamplight, my eyes burning, the mornings I chose hope over despair, my hands trembling but moving forward. I told them about Sadie, about the pain of being unseen, the sting of her words, and the freedom of claiming my worth, of standing tall. Their faces, some tear-streaked, some nodding, told me they understood, their eyes mirrors of my own struggles. I wasn't alone, and neither were they, our stories woven together in the quiet of that room. As the night wound down, Sadie and I unveiled a small plaque in the garden, a simple bronze square etched with mothers and daughters, its edges smooth under our fingers. It wasn't grand, just a promise to keep this space for healing, for connection, for moments that matter. We stood side by side, the cool metal grounding us, and I felt a weight lift, not gone, but lighter. A burden shared. I'd carried shame, fear, silence for too long, letting them shape me. Letting them go didn't erase the past, but it gave me room to breathe, to be, to live fully. What I've learned is simple, but it took me years to see, years of quiet battles. Worth isn't in what you own or what others see. It's in the truth you live, the honesty you give yourself and those you love. Hiding who you are, even to protect someone, builds walls tall and cold. Tearing them down, that's where healing starts, where love grows. I'm still learning, still stumbling, but I'm here whole, and that's enough. What's a truth you've had to claim for yourself? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story, to know what keeps you going. If this moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it, someone who's fighting to be seen. Thank you for being here, for listening, for carrying your own light. Here's to finding peace, one step at a time.